So you are looking in the Providence metro area for a single family property that is in the price range of 350 to 450. You need at least 3 bedrooms. You need at least 2 bathrooms, one of which could include a half bath. And you're looking for a property that has about 1,400 square feet. Let's talk about the areas. So these are the areas that pretty much make up the Providence, what I would consider sort of that Providence metro. When we look at the map, that is pretty much primarily within the 295 Beltway. Although it does go a little, here's a property that is in sort of the western Cranston. So Cranston does extend, it's the second largest city in Rhode Island, and it does have pretty big land mass. I did include Warwick, and Warwick goes down pretty far south. So we're going to talk a little bit about these areas. Now, as you can see, that only puts us at 24 properties. So that's not a lot. So if we wanted to look at, let's see what happens when we take out the bathroom requirement. That pushes us up to 38 properties. And if we change this to 1,200, that significantly changes it. So in this price range, you're going to be primarily a little bit smaller household size, and the number of bathrooms, you may get a half bath, you may get 2 full bathrooms, but there just aren't as many. But when you're searching for properties, you really want to make sure that you're working with me and that you set up the criteria that really works. That's the point. We don't want to look at every single property. The whole point of being able to jump into our MLS system is that you actually see that we're setting up search parameters that are going to save you time, because it's showing up as what you actually need it to. So that's what I'm doing here. Now let's talk about the areas that we're looking. I'm going to start on the East Bay, and we're going to look in the Riverside neighborhood of East Providence. So East Providence is a separate town from Providence. So there's East Providence, there's Providence, and there's North Providence that are specific towns. Now we have areas in Providence. We have South Providence, which is in Providence, but it's not a separate town. So welcome to Rhode Island, where it can be a little confusing, but I'm going to try to break this down for you. So the town of East Providence does run all the way down. So it's divided by the river, the Providence River, which turns into our Narragansett Bay. It's divided by Massachusetts on the eastern border. So East Providence, you've got the Rumford neighborhood, that is the area that's in the top. You've got central East Providence, which is right around 195. And then the area that comes down, this is known as Riverside, which is, again, part of East Providence. Riverside is really this section right here. All this landmass turns into Barrington. In this price range, you won't find anything in Barrington. The median sale price in Barrington is around $550 and inching very closely up to that $600 price range. Let's talk about Riverside. What I love about Riverside is that you've got access to the bike path, and the bike path extends all the way from Providence. I'm going to scroll in a little bit and you'll see, where is that green line? Here we go. So this is India Point Park right here. This is the southern part of the east side of Providence. Again, another distinction. We've got the east side of Providence. This landmass is known as the east side of Providence, which is a part of Providence. And then you have East Providence, again, which is a separate town. So, and this is the Rumford, which is a village in East Providence, central East Providence, and then Riverside. So that bike path runs all the way from India Point Park. It shoots around Veterans Memorial Parkway. There's a couple parking lots that you can just, if you don't want to park down here. And it goes all the way across this little bridge right here, and all the way down, shoots around Pawtucket Ave, and then jumps across over into Barrington. So I don't know, you can see the green line right here. So people that buy in this area, you also have, there's a lot of really beautiful waterfront properties over here. This neighborhood is very densely populated. You're going to have very tiny lots. You can see how small they are. And you're going to have older, smaller homes in this neighborhood. But people buy over here because they want access to this bike path. They want access to the water. They want access to the East Bay. This is the Terrace Ave, which is a very high-end neighborhood. Beautiful, stunning waterfront properties. This is the sunset view. I've sold a couple of houses over here. I have friends that live over here, and they've got beautiful sunset views. So I love this area, but I do love this part of Riverside that goes into the bike path. Let's click on a couple of these active listings, because it's going to show you, this is sort of what can be expected in the price range. This is newly listed, a little bit dated in that kitchen, but probably has a pretty nice layout. So $389 is a good price point for that. This property has been on for a while. Kind of a unique property. I've been inside of it. A little bit of a strange layout. Some interesting design choices. That's been sitting for a little bit. Those aren't great examples, but that's what we got in this inventory. So that would be East Providence. It feels like a suburb of Providence. There's, in this section, there's, a little sort of downtown area that is, I would suspect within the next few years, it'll be a little bit more vibrant. A couple little great bakeries over here. Down in Riverside, there's Borealis Coffee Shop. There's Union Burrito and Bar, which is brand new. That's right on the bike path. Sabin Point. There's the Providence Folk Festival, which is a tiny little folk festival that local musicians have put on, done a great job. They do their festival there every year. So I suspect we'll see more and more. But what people like about this area, particularly if they live in this area, it's a quick jump across the Henderson Bridge to get over to the east side of Providence. So you'll have families, professors, people that live and work, that like to live in Rumford and some of these areas in order to be able to cross over. If you do have to commute from Boston, it can be a little tricky. You're going to want to try to take Route 1A, but even through Route 1A on trafficy days, you're gonna be stuck. And this 195, where 95 converges, gets really backed up in the mornings and also in the evenings. So just keep that into consideration if you're doing much traveling. I am surprised nothing from Pawtucket. So let's take out some of these, because I want to really actually show more properties in this. So this will give us a little bit more opportunity to see some of the property types. You're going to see a fair number of flipped properties in this price range. I don't have any problem with flipped properties per se. I know what to look for when it comes to a flipped property. I know a lot of investors in Rhode Island that do a great job, and then there's some investors in Rhode Island that take a lot of shortcuts and don't do a great job. But there are lots of telltale signs. You can see that the housing stock in these areas are going to be a little bit on the older side. That's Rhode Island for you. So we've got in East Providence and Pawtucket, you're going to see a lot of colonial style homes. You're going to see a lot of ranches. You'll see some raised ranches, not quite as few, but some. You'll see the occasional bungalow, which people really enjoy, and you'll see a lot of Cape Cod style homes. What I love about Pawtucket is you've got access to a park. You've got Slater Park. Pawtucket does have quite a mix of multifamily and single family properties. It does get very busy. It's very densely populated. It's a great community to invest in. There's a new train line that is going to be put in that will be done soon. And it does, again, have close proximity to the east side of Providence. And a lot of people moving from Boston like Pawtucket because it's easy to commute from, especially once they have that new train line in. If you're looking for someplace, again, I wouldn't say that there's a lot of walkability factor in Pawtucket. It's a suburb. There is certainly development, especially on Route 1A. This goes all the way into Attleboro. There's every big box store that you could possibly want or not want is going to be somewhere along the line of Route 1A. So, and if you need access to Rhode Island public transportation, then you're going to have lots of options in Pawtucket as well. So if those are needs that you have, then you'll find that. Cumberland extends pretty far, all the way from this area all the way up to the border of Massachusetts. You will find some of Lower Cumberland in the Valley Falls neighborhood in this price range for sure. I mean, we're seeing that right here. Cumberland, if you look on websites like niche.com, if school systems are important to you, that's a great website. And niche.com has Cumberland schools ranking quite high. So that might be something to consider if you have schools to take into consideration or may have schools in the past. If you look at property values in Cumberland area, you will see that the property values tend to go up and also that they stay pretty stable. When we circle a little bit further, we've got Central Falls. Now in Central Falls, again, very densely populated neighborhoods. All right, this is not based on anything except speculation, and I'm not even sure where to look this up, but there may be more multifamilies than single families in Central Falls. Lincoln, again, is going to have a higher price point, as we get further out of what would be considered Metro Providence. As we get into Lincoln, Johnston, Cumberland, those prices are going to go up, which means the house in this price point is going to get smaller and need a little bit more work, most likely. North Providence. What I want to talk to you about North Providence is Mineral Spring Avenue. So if you're looking for a community that has easy access to shopping centers and groceries and, again, some big box stores like Lowe's or Home Depot, Mineral Springs Avenue could be a good place for you. If you need to walk to them, if you need access to an urgent care, then Mineral Springs, particularly some of these neighborhoods in the Fairlawn neighborhood, might be a good choice. On the flip side, if you're commuting, know that Mineral Springs Avenue gets very, very busy because there's lots of commercial activity on Mineral Springs Avenue. So it could be good. There's lots of bus lines on Mineral Springs Avenue, but on the flip side, it also does mean it's going to be a little bit more trafficy. Kind of making our way down. So again, we started at East Providence, we went through Pawtucket, we went through Cumberland, we went through Lincoln, Central Falls. Now we're heading into North Providence, Johnston, a little bit on the outskirts. As we get further away, it gets a little bit more suburban or a little bit more, I don't want to call these spots rural because there's really nothing rural about Johnston. But in comparison to some of these other areas, you got Providence, then you've got North Providence, then you've got Johnston and Lincoln, then you've got Cumberland, and you've got Scituate and Foster as we widen out of the more urban areas of Providence. Popping back into Providence, you've got the Elmhurst neighborhood. Now, I've done a whole video just on Elmhurst. I've done a whole video just on neighborhoods within the east side of Providence. So you could pop in and get a little bit more thorough details on this area. This mass right here is Providence College, and we've got Rhode Island College over here. You've got Mount Pleasant neighborhood right here. Elmhurst neighborhood is actually pretty small. It extends, it's about this small little section right here. I would consider it slightly walkable, not in comparison to, say, Fox Point or Hope Village or Wayland Ave over here, but you do have, and again, if you watch the video just on this neighborhood, you do have some little delis, some little coffee shops. You've got a couple little parks for kids. You can walk around on Providence College. You've got Triggs Memorial, which is a golf course over here. So there are some things when people say in this price range, they're looking for a walkable neighborhood. This is one of the areas that I would say, and it's just going to become more vibrant. There are a lot of bodegas over here. It's a very diverse neighborhood, particularly in the Olneyville neighborhood and between Federal Hill and Chalkstone Boulevard. So lots of really little great places, some amazing Italian delis. One of my favorite restaurants in Providence is a Peruvian restaurant that's over here, Los Andes. Incredible. So there's a lot to do here. And then you've got Valley District right here. So you've got the Indoor Farmers Market at Sims. You've got the Steel Yard, and you've got Waterfire Arts Center. So you've got some organizations that are really offering a lot to the community, valuing the community that they're in. So there's some great things that are happening here as well, which I think if you're looking for sort of a family, that gives you some pretty close by, some things to do. We're looking on a map. There are many, many blocks here. So you can certainly walk from this area down into this area, but you're walking several blocks, but it's also a cheap Uber. Everything in Rhode Island is pretty small. So I love the Elmhurst neighborhood if you're looking for something that's walkable. Access to bus lines for sure. We are heading into the Silver Lake neighborhood, Lower South Providence, and then Washington Park. Now, Silver Lake and Lower South Providence, and I would say even Washington Park, you've got a strong mix of multifamilies and single family properties. You've got a lot of tenants that live in these areas. You've got a lot of landlords. I would say particularly in South Providence, you've got a landlords that have not done a great job of maintaining their properties. If you look back at the history of Providence, when some of these highways were put in and they cut off these neighborhoods, I would say this is a little bit of a food desert. We do have food co-op over here. Olneyville has Price Right. There are small little markets, but there is not a grocery store in the lower South Providence, anywhere in South Providence or the Elmwood neighborhood. Again, there are lots of little markets and things, very densely populated. You really need to drive around the area and make sure that it's the right fit. There's a historic neighborhood over here in the Elmwood neighborhood. Some really beautiful properties, but again, some neglected properties that just haven't been cared for over the years. I would say the same in Silver Lake, although I would say that as prices in the market is changing, you've got newer landlords that are taking over these properties, fixing them up. Same with the single family homes. You know, this has been an area. I love Laurel Hill. Again, you're going to have Victorian style homes. You're going to have capes, a couple bungalows, and more colonial style homes. So, you know, these are well-established neighborhoods that were built in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, primarily throughout Providence. In the West End and Federal Hill, you have more properties that were built in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and then that sort of shifted out. Same in these areas. Cranston area starts, I don't know where my lines are, but kind of right around in here is where we pick up Cranston. This is the Knightsville neighborhood, which was an Italian district. The Auburn neighborhood and Garden City and Dean Estates. I do have a video that goes through all of these neighborhoods that you might want to check out. What I love about the Auburn neighborhood, particularly right here, is you've got Rolfe Square. So when we talk about a neighborhood that's walkable in this price range, this is another spot that I come to. You're going to have tons of bus lines. You've got a Dave's supermarket that they built right here. So great access to a grocery store within walking distance. Coffee shops, Vitola's, which is a little Italian restaurant that also has great pizza and a really nice bar. Mesa, got great gyros and baklava, a Greek restaurant. I can't remember the name of it because it's fairly new. There's Durfee's hardware store. So this is a fabulous area. I love the houses over here. Same style as, you know, all of my favorites. We've got, let's look and see. Here's a little sort of Dutch colonial. We don't have any other pictures, but, you know, lots of really great historic charm in this neighborhood. I've sold a bunch of homes over here. You'll have some mix of, I love their blue door. Look like they recently updated that kitchen. This is classic style home in this neighborhood. You'll have the occasional, you know, ranch style home. They're calling this a cape. This one's been updated. I believe that one sold last year or the year before. So fabulous walking neighborhood. Washington Park has close proximity to Providence and to the jewelry district and to the east side of Providence. You'll have strong mix of multifamilies and single families. Very densely populated right here. The lots are going to be a little on the smaller side. They'll be a little bit bigger over here, and they'll get bigger as you go into Edgewood. I love Roger Williams Park. Roger Williams Park has fabulous zoo, botanical gardens, a little playground area for kids, including a carousel. I used to take my kids there for their birthdays. That's where Aiden always wanted his birthday. Beautiful waterways. It's a really, really nice park. So, you know, any of the houses that are along the park, I think are really great investments. And it's nice to be able to have that to walk to. Broad Street is busy. This street is busy. Patuxent Village and the Edgewood neighborhood are not in this price range. You will have these houses in Warwick, which do have close proximity to Patuxent Village. Again, I did a whole video just on these, so I would encourage you to check those out so you can hear a little bit more on these areas. I'm kind of flying through them right now, even though this is 23 minutes long. Warwick hits right here, so you're heading into Warwick. Thing to know about Warwick, we've got our major airport right here. So if you are in any of the neighborhoods that are near the airport, these, for example, you're going to have takeoffs and landings right there. Now, you may get a little bit bigger house though, because these are going to be impacted in the price for sure because of the close proximity. So you have to decide what your priorities are. Would you rather be in a smaller house that's a little bit further away from that, or would you rather be in a larger house and you don't care about the airport? That might not be a big deal to you, depending on, you know, maybe you grew up next to an airport. What I love about these areas is you've got great proximity to the water, get a kind of a beautiful area. Oakland Beach was always sort of a summer destination. Back in the early 1900s, there was actually a huge hotel here. There were trolley lines, a streetcar line that went all the way down. This is where people would summer. Then over the years, the economic downturn, particularly in the 80s and the 90s, really hurt this area, and then it became very economically depressed. That has changed as the prices have changed. That has changed as the cleanliness of our bay has really improved. So now I would say there's things to do. These are on bus lines. Warwick has easy access to grocery stores, shopping malls, you name it, it's there. I will say if you have to go into Providence, if you're doing any sort of commute from here into Providence, this is going to feel pretty far away from you. Believe it or not, you're going to deal with lots of traffic. If you have to commute to Boston on a regular basis, then I would say no way. Really anywhere south of this area of Cranston probably is just going to feel too far unless you're in odd times traveling, not when everybody else is. You won't find a lot of homes in this price range in the Coesit neighborhood, and you certainly won't find any in the East Greenwich neighborhood, but I would consider that outside of the Providence metro. This really goes over what we've been talking about. Let's go back to adjusting this a little bit to common parameters that folks tell me, and it just reduces what we're looking at a little bit more. So focused on some areas in Providence, certainly some areas in North Providence are going to be a good fit. The Auburn neighborhood would be a great fit. Riverside, I think, you just kind of got to decide what the priorities are. If you need a bigger lot, that's probably not going to be a good fit. If you're fine with something small, then that could work for you. So I hope this is helpful. Again, I've got other videos that go into depth into some of these areas. If you want more detailed view of a particular area, then just let me know. Say, send me a message and say, hey, Jess, I'd really like to focus on learning more about North Providence. And I'd like to see a wider view of the homes and different home styles and ranges in North Providence. And tell me about some of those areas, because North Providence, for example, has the Mineral Springs neighborhood, like I said, close to where everything is happening. We would call that sort of the Fairlane, Mineral Springs Avenue. Then we've also got the Fruit Hill neighborhood, which is just going to have a little bit of a different feel too. So every town in Rhode Island has different villages, different areas to consider, and I can do an individual video on those particular places if that's helpful for you. Or we can jump on a Zoom. I can do a screen share with you, and we can really have a personal talk about each of them as well to find out, because what we're working to do is to figure out, where does your budget and the goals that you have, where do those align? Because that's what we're looking for. And we just want to look in those areas to make sure that we can find the right property for you. All right, let me know if I can help. Feel free to reach out.